No, like
no. Oh, like resolve, like intention. Intention. What does intention look like? We were trying to make it up. It was spillover from my improv class last night. Yeah, I'm taking improv. It's a pretty funny thing. It's causing me to think a whole lot more about my facial expressions. Not that I haven't always been pretty descriptive with them. I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble. Have you ever gotten yourself into trouble just by a look? You didn't even open your mouth, and before you knew it, the intention you had of displaying kindness or goodness was out the window because your look said something entirely different, right? And it's wild, it's interesting. I was going to use the word crazy, and it maybe actually is crazy. We measure ourselves and judge ourselves, assess ourselves by our intention, which is kind of cool until our intention doesn't match our action. And then you, Virginia, measures me, and you measure me or judge me or perceive me or experience me not based on my intention at all. In fact, only based on what I actually say or the facial expression I actually expose to you.
Your body language.
The body language, the thing I actually do. Where has that shown up in your life, Virginia, to be an ally? And where has it shown up to be a sore?
Okay, so intention. And facial expressions we're talking?
Anything to do when your intention doesn't match your action.
Yes.
So where I know what I'm going to do, so I know I'm going to phone you today. That's my intention. My intention, and I may even believe it to the core of my being. And yet, what if I don't phone you today? What if you've reached out to me around selling your home? And I just get caught up in the other details of the day, going to an inspection, dealing with an offer, connecting with somebody that phones the office about selling their home or emails me, and so it's right in front of me. And so my intention of following up with you and staying in touch with you and saying, are you ready? What are you ready for? What's the next logical step for us to take? If I don't make that call, my intention is pointless.
It is, and by doing nothing, it also says something.
Oh, powerful. Like,
very powerful.
I don't want to say what that says.
Yeah, and so that's, as I was thinking about some because it happens all the time, where maybe I have an intention of, I said I would call you at this certain time, and then something happens. So somebody drops in, or you get another phone call, and really my intention needs to be to tell the other person that just came into that, to say, you know, I'd love to speak with you right now, and I have this commitment, and I'm keeping that commitment. And how many times do I get caught up in conversations because why am I talking? Right?
That was yesterday's. So if you didn't watch yesterday's Raw and Real, you will want to go back to watch it, because we talked about an acronym of wait, and not physical wait, just waiting. And the question we have to ask ourselves, and maybe you have to ask yourself this too, is wait representing why am I talking? Because there's times that we should have zipped it, .com, and allowed there to be silence. Right.
And that's part of being intentional, to remember that as a talker, and I sometimes speak before I think, and that's the why am I talking part. So to be intentional about that is very key, and it's important for you to understand that I'm trying to figure it out by speaking, whereas some people are figuring it out by thinking. And so I have to be intentional to be more about thinking before I speak, because sometimes that's painful to the person I'm speaking with.
We do okay, because we both do it the same way, so it actually isn't a bad thing. And yet, can you imagine when it's my poor husband? And he's not poor, but when I subject him to my, I'm going to call it rhetoric, because that's what it sounds like to him, right? And so intention spills over into everything.
It does.
Right? Everything. So where does it get in your way is, I think, what you just said, and maybe this is something you can relate to, and if you can, 2 hands up if you can really go, yes, this is so me, or if it's just a lot me, or a little bit me, or maybe not me at all, and that's okay, because we're all very different. So when you're speaking to someone or engage with somebody, and that's what I think I heard you say, but you have a commitment to be speaking with somebody, I think is what you were saying. And then someone else comes into the environment. Like, because the Manotick office is on the main street, it's very common for people to pop in and go, hey, Yetta, you in here? You here? Can we have a chat? And meanwhile, I already have a scheduled call in 4 minutes, or 3 minutes, or whatever the length of time is, to potentially call you, to talk to you about something. Maybe it's selling a home, maybe it's the home that we've already sold and there's some details to work out. Maybe it's some listing details. Like, it could be anything. It could be just answering some questions about the general market. And yet we've made that scheduled phone call appointment, and now somebody comes in. Yeah. It takes a lot of intention.
It does.
Not to get derailed by who's in front of you, who's in front of you maybe, and certainly for me, who's in front of me, or you're saying the same thing. And it doesn't mean that you're not really important if you just pop by. It's just if you pop by, because I do it too, I pop by lots. Yeah. I like pop-bys, they're kind of fun. And yet when I pop by, I have to be aware that maybe it's not a good time for you.
Yes.
And if it is, fantastic.
Yes.
And if it's not, well, then that's okay too. So where in your life is intention helping you? Because you're actually following through on the intention, which is like amazing. It works for me a lot of the time. I'm very scheduled. The reason Virginia is here this morning, in fact, is because yesterday we were doing a Raw and Reel, and we were preparing for our Roar Canada core meeting that's coming up this weekend. So Roar Canada masterminds are awesome, and we've been planning stuff for 2018, so we'll keep you posted. You can private message me if you want some details on that, if you've been hearing about it, and maybe you've been to a few, or you haven't been to one yet and you're thinking you want to, just private message me and I'll give you the details.
And if you have, message below a comment as to how that intention of going to the Roar Canada Mastermind actually benefited you and others in your world.
Yeah, because that's the whole point. It's about, And so when Virginia was here and we did our little video on weight, which was so good, and for some people, weight simply stands for when am I to talk, instead of why am I talking?
Why am I talking? Yes.
And she accidentally forgot her day timer. She has this big nasty thing still. Like, look at this. Who still carries one of these around anyway? And I kind of thought, when I noticed it not taken away with her when she left, that was a gift. Because then I could tell her just to get into Google World and just make it happen online. And so I didn't even tell her she'd left it here. I had no intention of reaching out.
No intention.
Well,
and intention.
I
was looking for this morning. I'm like, where is it? And yeah.
I did. Well, it crossed my mind, and then I thought, no, she's better off without it. So I decided not to take any action, really, is what crossed my thought for about 4 seconds. And then when I got the text this morning saying, do you happen to know where my pressure? And it doesn't even zip up. Like, I tried to close it and
I've had
tighten
it
it
for over 20 years.
Yeah. It's harder for Virginia, whatever system it is. I mean, all joking aside, this is her system, and yes, it's a little outdated, and it's her system, and it works for her. So, whatever your system that allows you to follow through on intention, what is it? Like, comment, because we're all using different things.
Yes.
I use a Google Calendar, and then I also do use a daily planning sheet.
Yes.
Called. I do.
Yeah,
I do. For the finite details. So it's priority, purpose, productivity, which equals performance. So without having the intention of organizing my life, and I organize the day before for the day following. So these are all things that really help with intention. So what do you do to follow through on intention with your intentions? And then maybe, where do you need some help? where do you need, like, comment, where do you need some input? Because I bet somebody in the community that is commenting can answer your challenge. We've given a few clues and ideas today, tips, even with this wonderful book. And so, intention. What's one thing you would like to say, Virginia?
Well, what's coming to me is that intention, it leads to inspired action. And inspired action helps to complete those things that we were intentional on doing. So that's key. And you talked about that at Roar Canada Mastermind last time, and you gave us a sheet, a form, that helped a lot of people to understand what is my goal, what is my milestones in that, and what are the actions I'm going to take, and how am I going to celebrate that. So that was very key. So come to our next mastermind, because you can ask Yetta about that.
Well, and I would tell you about it before if you asked me. And in fact, what amazed me at that mastermind is we had people there that have been teachers for 30 years. We had professionals there. We had students there. Like, it was a men, women, teenagers mix across the board. And what was incredible is even the people that are, I would perceive and know to be incredibly organized and structured and goal-oriented and have set their intention and follow through on their intention, still told me afterwards that they found this form and this format highly helpful.
Absolutely.
Shocking. So you don't know what you don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So intention. Determine what your intention is, and then the big gig is take inspired action to follow through on your intention, because I can only perceive you and experience you based on your actual action and not your intention, which is the same for you of me. Yeah. Yeah. So comment, let's share this, let's help each other just follow through on our intentions, because can you imagine what your day would be like? What your week would be like?
What your life would be like.
if you simply took action on every intention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roz Woodland says, "Hey, beauties."
Oh, hey, beauties, Roz. Have you heard this word somewhere before? And so Roz is fabulous. She had an intention of joining me at an improv class, just one. And once she was there, she was so inspired, joyful, and engaged about the whole thing, way more than I was, even though I'd already been going for a while. I'm a little less free, I guess. She's a little more inclined to just...
She's loving it.
She's loving it. So sometimes an intention of taking one small action, like coming just to enjoy an evening of Preserve, I think was the evening Roz came with me to, allowed her to then follow through and make it a much larger intention in her life.
Yes.
Really cool. So where does that show up for you?